followed this channel for any amount of time, you'll know I love collecting physical games, especially on the Nintendo Switch. There's just something about that console that makes me want to have them all. Could it be the fact that they're on a cartridge? Or perhaps it's because of how neat they look on my shelf.
Or maybe the Nintendo Switch is a fantastic console with a great library of games, some of which I haven't played yet. I feel like it's all that and more, and feels like a great console to collect for.
And I'm not alone. A lot of people get physical versions of Switch games, whether through retail or sites like Limited Run or super rare games. It's not only fun to collect, but since everything's in a cartridge, it means a lot of these games can be played again even if the eShop goes down or if the internet dies. That would be a horrible day.
So you think with the Nintendo Switch 2, I'd feel the same way, and that I would want to collect for the console as much as possible. Unfortunately, the way Nintendo's going with their latest console, I feel this may be the beginning of the end for physical games.
Okay, that may be a bit of an exaggeration, but it is safe to say people are going digital instead of physical more and more these days. Even I'm planning to go more the digital route this time around.
But why is that? And more importantly, will this lead to the end of physical games as we know it? Let's find out.
While physical is still an option for Nintendo Switch 2 games, the company seems to be pushing digital more and more. There are still some physical games on the shelf, but a lot of them are digital exclusives as well. And if I'm honest, I totally get it. Making a physical version of a game can be costly, and we'll get into more of those details later. But some games only have a code in the box, even for the Switch 2. Why are they still doing this? Code in the box games were a thing for the Switch 1, and I still think they're just a waste of plastic. I mean, you're just paying for a digital code and a plastic case. I don't understand it to this day, other than maybe something that's wrappable for Christmas.
The main issue that has a lot of people questioning whether to get a physical copy or not is something Nintendo calls key cards.
Key cards are special cartridges for the Switch 2, but unlike regular cartridges, the full game is not on the card itself. Instead, the cartridge acts like a key on a card. When you put it on your Switch 2, the game automatically downloads. There are pros and cons to this, as instead of your data being on a cartridge, it automatically goes into your system. This seems to be Nintendo's middle road between physical and digital, but to me, it just seems like digital with extra steps. It's not as bad as the code in the box, but it still feels kinda pointless. And who knows what'll happen if the eShop for the Nintendo Switch 2 goes away, and there won't be a backup available on any actual cartridge. However, there are some good things about the key card. For example, even though it's not on the cartridge, it's also not locked to your account like the code in the box. You can sell them, trade them, and put them in a completely different Switch 2, and it will still download just fine.
As of now, it seems like there's no limited redeems or anything, so that's nice. But honestly, for me, key cards just aren't worth it.
No matter what, the gigabytes are still going to be on the Switch 2. I'm still going to be needing a micro SD card to store things. A lot of the reason I did physical in the first place, aside from how good it looks on my shelf, was to save storage space as well. Each physical game I had I could just pop in with little to no download required. It's nice. Here, if there's going to be a huge download anyway, why not just get it at the eShop?
However, does this mean every single game has a physical key card? That can't be the case, right? While not every single Switch 2 game is a key card, there's a lot more than we initially thought.
Let's start off by saying that all first-party Nintendo games will be on the cartridges. They should be on the cartridges, because if I'm paying $80 a pop for Mario Kart World and $70 for Donkey Kong Bonanza, I'd better be getting every last megabyte. But when it comes to third-party titles, that's where keycards are going to be frighteningly more common. Nearly every launch game, Street Fighter 6, Yakuza 0, Bravely Default, Sonic X Shadow, even Puyo Puyo Tetris are all on these keycards, and there is no true way to get a physical copy like before. The only exception to this at the time of launch are marvelous games like Rune Factory and Cyberpunk 2077, where the game is on a 64GB cartridge. But other than that, Keyblades. I mean keycard. And that just doesn't sit right with a lot of people. We worry that if the eShop were to go down, just like the Wii U and 3DS eShop did, or if their Switch breaks, or if their Switch bricks, they may not be able to download their game ever again. It's a fear that a lot of physical collectors even thinking about digital games have, as the reality is you are paying for something you may not even own after 5, 10, maybe 20 years.
But what about companies like Limited Run? They make physicals specifically for those who don't have them for regular retailers. Surely they're not going to rely on key cards, right?
Well, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but Limited Run did release their physical of Raido Remastered, The Mystery of the Soulless Army. And while the Switch 1 version is definitely on the cartridge, the Switch 2 version will be on a key card. This is very disappointing, as a company with the motto Forever Physical can't really live up to their name. Although they did confirm that all of their numbered Switch 2 releases, as in having the limited number on their cover, would be on the cart. So that's good at least, but we'll see what happens.
But why is this happening? What is causing third-party companies to move on to making key cards instead of actual physicals? Well, remember when I mentioned cartridges were expensive before? That's why.
I know back on the Switch days, a game that's $15 on the eShop, like Stardew or Undertale, would have a physical copy that's twice the price. I can imagine it being very expensive for Switch 2 games, especially those with a 64GB capacity. And with Switch 2 games already flirting with $70 price tags on a key card, yeah, I can see why third-party devs want to go with the cheaper option. It also allows third-party to have a physical version, I guess. For example, let's say you wanted a physical of your game, but it's bigger than 64GB capacity. You could do a code in a box like Split Fiction did, or you could just use a key card and get the closest thing to a Switch 2 physical you could get. Is it a traditional physical? Not at all. But to many companies, this can be some sort of middle ground between an expensive cartridge and a fully digital license. I can't confirm this, as Nintendo's communication skills have been as cohesive as a 5-year-old's book report for War and Peace, but if rumors are to be believed, Nintendo is forcing developers to choose between the 64GB cartridge and a key card. Again, I can't confirm this, but I can get why these companies may be choosing the key card instead.
But what does this mean for the future of physical gaming? Will we never truly own our games? Well, as of now, no, there still is some physical games. But I do have my concerns.
Nintendo has directly communicated that they will not be using key cards for their first-party games, which is good. It sucks that a lot of third-party love will be limited physically, but it would be even worse if you couldn't get Nintendo's main games on a cartridge either. A lot of the first Switch's success can be contributed to the indie and third-party scene. Given how difficult it would be to get physical copies, I can see a lot of collectors going full digital instead. I have a feeling this will cause a feedback loop that convinces Nintendo to go full digital going forward, and that's frustrating because it feels like a problem Nintendo is creating. I can see a lot of people just not bothering with keycards and going digital, which could lead to an increase in sales. Or it could lead to a decrease in sales and them not buying the games at all. Either way, the future does look bleak as it does look digital. However, it would be wrong of me to say I didn't see this coming. Sony has their physical discs work pretty similarly, where the disc acts as a key to download the rest of the game. And physical Xbox games are becoming rarer and rarer by the day. Hell, Xbox games are becoming rarer and rarer by the day. These companies have been gearing up for digital more and more. They're just being less transparent about it compared to Nintendo. It's also interesting how much effort Nintendo is making to prepare for a digital future, despite the historic success of the physical copies.
It also is interesting to see Nintendo prepare for a digital future, even with its success with physical copies.
During the original Switch era, physical sales were booming, with some reports showing physical versions outnumbering digital sales 2-to-1. That's pretty impressive, and it shows that there's definitely still a market for physical games, especially for the collecting scene. Also, the Switch eShop was trash, but the Switch 2 looks to change all that. Not only with the key cards and a high-quality eShop that's sure to get its own video, but also with the introduction of virtual game cards. Virtual game cards are a feature for Switch and Switch 2 that allows you to lend digital games to your friends. It's a cool feature, but I remember when it was first announced, I was confused. Why was Nintendo dedicating so much of a direct to this? Nintendo was still dominating the physical market. Why make this change? Well, with the rise of key cards, this all may be one more subtle push towards digital, whether Nintendo says it or not.
And while I am not a fan of the inevitable digital future, I can see why people would want to make the move.
I love collecting games. I love having them on my shelf lined up neat and orderly. But I'd be lying if I said the convenience of digital isn't tempting. Downloading the game directly to your Switch 2, saving trips going to pick up games at a store, and not having to wait for it to arrive in the mail is very nice. Not having to get up to change cartridges constantly is also quick and easy, as lazy as it sounds. It's fast and convenient. And while I complain about having to get a micro SD card for space, you know what other space I'm running out of? My shelf! As much as I want to keep getting physical games, I'll eventually have to get more space to store them all in. What happens if I have to move? Where does it all go? How long will it take to store it? Where would I fit it all? It's all stuff to consider.
And finally, my biggest issue with physical games, disc rot.
The idea of your physical games just degrading and corroding over time is not something physical gamers think about, but it does happen. It's more common with discs, sure, but it can even happen with cartridges. My physical copy of Breath of the Wild and Smash Bros. Ultimate are getting to the point where it takes multiple attempts to start up because my Switch can't read them at points. Eventually it does work, and I will admit, my Switch 2 has not been having as much issues, but for how much longer?
The future is worrying me for gaming, whether I decide to go physical or digital. And with the introduction of key cards, I feel like the writing is on the wall.
That's to say I won't be completely swearing off physical. Some games like first-party titles and Cyberpunk 2077 will find a home on my shelf along with the rest of my collection. But a majority of the time, if it's on a key card, I think I'll just cut out the middleman and go digital. It's not the worst thing in the world, and I still can see why people would choose to take key cards. You don't need the internet to use them, and they can be lent to friends. I think it's a decent middle ground. But if you're like me, you're probably thinking, why bother? Just go digital instead. And that makes me sad. One of my favorite things about the Switch was collecting all the weird physical copies that were out there. Trying these fun, crazy games and seeing what hidden treasures I could find in the local game stores. Some people even made content dedicated to finding Nintendo Switch physical games. It's going to be sad seeing that decline, and I'm going to miss it.
But those are my thoughts on the whole key card Switch 2 debacle. What are your thoughts? Let me know in the comments below. No one's taking my Switch 2 physical copies!
Thank you so much for watching all the way to the end. If you liked the video, be sure to hit the like button, leave a comment, and check out my other videos too. Special thanks to everybody who helped me out with the video. I couldn't have done it without all of you. Also, an extra special thanks to my Patreon patrons, including Mantelferox, Blu-ray Joe 3, and Savacom. If you'd like to join the Patreon, the link is in the description below, along with my Blue Sky, Twitch, and Instagram. Thank you so much, and I'll see you all in the next video. Have a good night.